In this video, let's practice how to automate deployments with AWS CDK, the Cloud Development Kit from AWS. And it's a great piece of technology. What it lets us do is code our infrastructure, so create resources in a declarative way and automatically generate the AWS resources that we need through CloudFormation. It can also use other languages like Terraform or even Kubernetes, but the default output is through AWS CloudFormation. So let's work with that for a start. And another great thing is that you can use the same language that you're using in your app. So it supports JavaScript, TypeScript, and bindings for Python, Java, .NET, and Go, actually translations to those languages through a very nice project called JSII, but we're not going to go that deep. So all we need to do is install the AWS CDK and use the CDK init command to build the initial scaffolding for the project in any language that you use. In our case, we're going to be using TypeScript, but if your project is Java, you can use Java. If your project is Python, use the language you would like best. And in TypeScript, this, for example, is what an SQS queue would look like. And you can imagine other types for other AWS resources. So there are types for instances, for functions, for container clusters, for anything you want to create, and could create either by hand, clicking the buttons, or by CloudFormation. You can also create through CDK. And let's go to the project we are working on, the Pet Hub. We built the container for that in previous episodes, the container image. And here in CDK bin, we can see the initial CDK code, a very minimal CDK example, just to get the project running on AWS with the minimal configuration, like with as little steps as possible, but taking care of reuse, of a good design, and some things that are going to be interesting. So in the first tier, we have the parameter stack here on params, and this just sets the better of secret based on the value that we have from the environment variable with the same name. What this is going to do is create a systems manager string parameter, saving that parameter with a given naming standard. So I call a prefix called tenant ID, that's another variable. You can create your own naming conventions. This is just a variable I use to organize my parameters. If I have different environments or different customers, you can use that to separate things a little bit. But again, I usually call it tenant ID. Some people call it environments, canaries, whatever you want to call it. And on top of that, we have a simple network stack. The only thing in specific here is that I try to avoid using NAT gateways because those can be a bit expensive. So I'm using endpoints instead in public or private subnets. And on top of that, a database stack that must be on private networks. And it's a serverless database. So we're going to use PostgreSQL and Aurora serverless and tell it to create the secrets, the credentials as secrets in this location. I probably should use a prefix here as well. We can improve this code in many ways. For example, here we're fetching the parameters directly and building the database URL could be better. and so on and so forth, but little by little. Again, this is a very simple and minimal example. And on top of that, we can see here in the bin main file, the database, the next one is the ECS, so the container cluster that will be running this with the load balancer, the listener, and the configurations to expose that on HTTP for now. We're gonna talk about HTTPS and a lot more in the future videos, but for now let's just start with plain HTTP. And if we go to the terminal, I built a small script. I build small scripts for everything. So CDK deploy will run our deploy script, which is quite simply just build the container image as we've been doing and run this CDK deploy command. So npx CDK deploy without requiring approvals and without rolling back resources, so we can debug them if needed. And again, you can adjust that as you would like, but in the end, what we need is deploy to CDK. And with that, it's going to generate the CloudFormation code and ship that to AWS. So in the CloudFormation service here, I can see my previous deployment, including the template that was generated by CDK automatically and put into action, and all of that along with the previous tiers, of course, the database, the networking, the parameters, everything we declared. And here in outputs, I can see the load balancer DNS. So if I access this, you can see our application up and running. For now, just a very simple landing page, but we're gonna add more features as we go. Let us know if that's something you would like to practice. So at newone.com in workshops, we have frequent workshops covering everything, including infrastructure as code and CDK and Terraform and whatever you would like to practice with us. Let us know in the comments and see you soon.